to Newton Marion for the class reunion 1964. Give yourself a big round of applause. At this time, I turn the microphone over to Richard right here.
Please hold the applause till the end. I am Richard Egan, very proud member of the class of 1964. I was talking to someone earlier, and they said, "Oh, I remember you from the National Honor Society." No. If you were ever at the Saturday morning detention, we might have met there. Now, Susan has really been pestering me to make sure I was prepared. I think she really does remember what I was like in high school. And I thought I would give the same kind of preparation to this that I did to like doing homework, you know? But that meant I'd have to get on the subway and write this, you know, coming over from Dorchester. And when I thought back on it then, what I really used to do is, I would copy someone else's work. And if you remember Jimmy Lannon, God love him, you know? He was the smart kid from Dorchester. I used to be confused with him a lot. But I used to copy his work, and it was always right, but oh, it was so long, you know? So I switched over to copying John Canty's. It wasn't right, but it was short, you know? Now, there was one guy that was on that train. I never copied his homework, and that was Dennis Howell. And you know, Dennis, you used to project kind of an aura when we were in high school. You know, he had this kind of piercing eyes and a strong jaw, and even at 15 or 16, you had that 5 o'clock shadow at 8 o'clock in the morning. And, you explained to me one time that you never did your homework because the nuns were afraid to ask you. And of course, you know, looking back on it now, I can see that, you know, doing that, it was really a mistake. I was copying the wrong people's homework. I should have copied Dennis's. Somebody's here, you know? On occasion, yeah. Someone was talking to me about passing the New York bar exam, and I said, well, no, it wasn't that. It was like high school. You just needed to sit beside someone that was really smart. And it wasn't that big a problem. I do have some notes here in case I, you know, forgot what I was going to say, because I don't know where I put them. You know, this is part of being old. Yeah. I was, you know, to try to give any kind of a talk. Are you recording this?
Yes. It'll be on YouTube in about 20 minutes.
You know, you need to come up, you should talk about something you know about. Kind of limits.
5 minutes.
Yeah, this will be over quickly. And, you know, also hopefully something that you people would be interested in. So the first topic I came up with, I thought, well, we could all talk about our grandchildren and how wonderful they are. But, you know, we've got to be out of here by 11 o'clock. That wouldn't work. And then I thought, well, we could talk about how disappointed we are in our own children. And You know how they never call. They don't appreciate what we do for them. But you know, the same problem. You want to be done by 11 o'clock. Now I have to tell you, I'm real happy because the server is laughing. And, you know, if you can get those people to laugh, you're doing okay. So I feel pretty good here. But the topic I came up with, and I think it's something we're all interested in here, is how to know when you're old. You know? Because someday we'll get there. You know? And I remember, you know, the first time I put a child's safety seat in my car. And I thought I was old, you know? But I wasn't, clearly. And then I remember, you know, the first time I saw a pretty girl and thought, I wonder if she'd like to meet my son. I thought I was old, you know? But I wasn't. Now because you wonder, would she like to meet my grandson? But you're still not old. But, you know, now when you see a good-looking guy or a pretty girl, and you think to yourself, now what was that all about? Then you're old. Then you're old. So, I do have some tests. Now, if these things it won't be graded, don't panic. But this is to kind of tell if you're old or getting old. Okay. If you go into a gas station and you have to prepay, so you go in, you pay for the gas, you come back, you get in your car and you drive away. You know? This is bad. Now, I should, you know, of course, none of these are from personal experience. I don't want you to think that. So, I've talked to some old people and they told me this is what happened. But when I'm done here, then we're going to have audience participation. You know? No, Sister Ann, please, don't speak out. Raise your hand, wait to be called on. Okay? I've waited 50 years. Now I can die happy. You know? Okay. If you're old, okay, if you use a camera to take pictures, this is a problem. My camera is over here. So, if you get invitations for both you and your caregiver, this is a bad sign. Now, I was sitting at this table and they promised they were going to laugh. And they're just looking at me like, you know, when are you going to say something funny? Jeez, what? Okay, another bad sign. You're at the airport and they come and ask you to board the plane with the people that have difficulty boarding the plane. Bad. You go to the library and they say, we also have that in large print. This is bad. Now you're all thinking about what you're going to contribute to this when I'm done here. Okay, you go to the car wash. You get out, you tell them what you want done, you walk to the other end, you get in someone else's car. It's a bad sign. Okay. You're watching a movie on your computer and you have on your headphones, but you didn't plug the thing into the computer. And then your kids come and explain to you that everybody in the room is listening to the thing. So you go, my fault. So you take the thing and you plug it into microphone instead of the thing. If you've been at a number of events where they play the national anthem and they say, well, those of you who can still stand, stand. Okay. You download several months of pictures and they're all cats. I'm going to move over to this table.
We think you're hysterical.
All the people that really appreciate humor are sitting here.
We can still hear.
Well, you know, in a group like this, you really have to speak up, because I figure half of you can't hear me. That's why you're not laughing. And when I'm through with this, I'm going to do the whole thing again.
We don't remember.
Half of you will have forgotten what I said. You know? I'm trying to build up to a big climax. You guys are great. Okay, you're approaching old age if your new clothes still have a tag in them that say, "Made in America." Oh well. I copied that one from John Cantor. I guess that wasn't the climax of the thing. Okay. You could be old if you pick up your TV remote and you try to make a phone call. But you're really old if you think somebody answered. This is a real problem. I do have more, but I'm kind of, I'm done with the old. Anybody want to participate on old? Anybody have any experience they want to contribute here?
Not yet.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to go over here and talk to these deaf people.
He's stable. Everything he
I think I was very funny.
Books on everything, Richard.
On a slightly more sincere note, there are some people here I really owe a debt to, not financial, thank God. But when I was in the 8th grade, I was supposed to be going to Don Bosco High School, where I was going to have a great career in radio and TV repair. And as it turned out, I have absolutely no mechanical ability. But when I was in grade school, the nuns told my mother that, well, you know, he's slow. You don't believe it. This is what they said, you know? But a slow learner. Well, when we went back home and my mother told my father, he was thrilled. He's a learner, you know? This is great. So, and I think, you know, as a slow learner, I was blessed because then they always gave me slow teachers. It worked out. But Coley Walsh came and convinced me to go to St. Mary's. And, you know, I haven't been the most successful lawyer in the world, but it ended up better than being a TV repairman. And I just really owe him a debt, and I'm very serious. And I think a was the principal when we were in high school. You know, Sister Ann St. Joseph, or better known as Sarah. In, you know, an era, there's always one. But you talk about somebody that was an exemplary leader. She was. And, you know, I think of all the people I've worked with, all the people I've been impressed with, owe a debt to, admire, she would be in the top 10 of that list. And I think, you know, when I spoke 5 years ago, I talked about how blessed we were to go to that school. And she was one of the chief blessings there. So God loved her. And I also want to speak about Sister Julie Marie. And, you know, I'm not kidding. I mean, I was not much of a student. And I didn't deserve a lot of encouragement, but she gave it to me, and it meant the world, and it still does. So I hope when you say a prayer, you'll say a prayer for those two ladies. And I think, you know, part of getting old is you come to appreciate what your own parents did do for you. But it takes a little bit longer, I think, to come to an appreciation for what our teachers did for us. And the fact that, you know, we had nuns teaching us. They weren't doing it for the money. And maybe they were doing it as penance. And I don't want to embarrass you, sisters, but I mean, thank you. Thank you very much. I you know, really do feel that I've been very lucky in my life. You know, we were born in the right country. Unfortunately, I mean, it's not fair, but we were born the right color. It helped an awful lot that I had a penis.
What happened to
And of course, what I clearly mean by that is that in 1964, when we were graduating from high school, there were not a lot of opportunities for women. And as men, we didn't have to compete with women. And if we did, it would have been a heck of a lot harder. So, in case anybody misunderstood me.
Everybody did.
Well, you know, I got into real trouble one time at work. And they were putting up charts of these new organizational things. And on my chart, it was just me and my secretary. And I said, well, you know, as my wife always tells me, size doesn't matter. Well, that was bad enough. But, you know, I didn't stop there. Should I stop there now?
Yeah, raise your hand if you think you should stop.
Okay, I'll stop. But you come to me later and I'll give you the real punchline. But,
So you need a stick, huh?
well, I wasn't christened that. It was, when I was born, that's what the nurses yelled out. I see I've lost this table. Well, I think, we do also need to acknowledge the committee that put this together. Did a heck of a lot of work. You're supposed to wait till I tell you who was on the committee.
We don't care.
John Gillespie. Larry Hurlman. Dennis Rogers. Joe Ptolemy. And the leader of the pack over here, Susan Grace. Well, before I offer the mic to anybody that wants to come up here and say something politically correct or apologize for me, we do have some special announcement here, an impending birthday for Cynthia Dunn. Happy birthday. Okay, well now, does anybody want to come up and kind of clean off what I've done? I don't know why they didn't invite me to give the invocation.
Larry Herman wants to talk. He's got a lot to say. 2-year-old son. That's the age. He's got the answer.
No, I think.
Yeah, Larry Herman.
It's always good to have some quality.
Yeah. Good job. Well, I always get a chance to say something like that. Part of the routine. I'm the serious guy, though. I'm the serious guy. Yeah. Well, you need something serious to kind of link it all, you know? It has to all come together. It's 50 years, for God's sakes. And we're still here, you know? And I think about it all the time, I really do. A day doesn't go by and I don't think about it. And when I'm looking at the list of everybody's names, trying to think back, you know, what was it? Who was that person? How did I interact with them? What was their significance? Was it important? Yeah, it was. It was important. You know, and I remember Coley. I remember him being an inspiration for us. I remember being a city kid, you know, and all of a sudden this priest is there and he believes in us for some reason, you know, and he didn't take no for an answer, you know. He says that you guys can do it, whether it was football or whether it was doing what we were supposed to do in school or the going to church and having the fundamentals of what we were being instructed to do. He was supporting it. And he wasn't that much older than we were. And I'm very grateful for that, Goalie. I want you to know that. I'm very grateful. And I'm grateful that you're here tonight. The nuns. You know, how many dinner parties have you been at where people just ripped them, right? They ruined my life. I can remember in 8th grade, well, I forget, who was our 8th grade teacher? I can't remember. Punching Danny Abrams right in the nose. Danny went back, his head hit the thing, and boom, he went down. Remember that? Remember we were at the room at the corner.
It should be Michael Shanek.
And I went, but you know what? And I was telling Sister Ann,
I liked her though.
they believed in us. They believed in
They had
us.
the same name.
They really believed in us. And I was talking to her tonight. We were city kids, for God's sakes. We were kids living in the projects. I lived in the Elms for 13 years. If I knew then who I had to compete with, the kids from Wellesley, the kids from Weston, the kids that went to Nobles and Brown and Nichols, we would have run and put our heads under the, but they made us believe. We went to one school, we went to another. I was never afraid. I was never afraid to kick butt, and we kicked butt. We did it. Why? It started with the nuns. I still remember the prepositions: about, above, across, after, against, among, around, at, before, beside, between, by, down, during, except, for, from, into, near, of, off, on, over, through, to, toward, under, up, with. I do it all the time. It's like a party thing. They taught us how to do that stuff. And Sister Ann, I'm very grateful. I'm serious, I mean that. God bless you. I'm very grateful for inspiring us to not be afraid to live in the life we live. I'm very grateful for that. You know, it was a difficult, and it's Sister Barbara as well, Sister Joseph Dolores. I'm very grateful, Sister, for that. I really mean that, sincerely. It was important to us, it's still important to us. It was 1960 when we started high school. I remember grammar school. I can remember, I'll tell you what I remember. I remember Lainey was the heartthrob in grammar school. And Bobby Belton was actually going to get to kiss her because she was Snow White in the play. It was like huge. And it was like, oh my God, everybody's in love with Lainey. And we still are, honey, we still are. I remember freshman year standing in the what was it called, the parade ground there, and I remember looking over and seeing Lainey and Lane Seddy and saying, boy, she's kind of cute, and walking home from the dance a few times. It didn't last long, but she was. And I can remember freshman year, Sister Ann being so, young and active and inspiring us. And I remember Bobby Belkner and myself turning the clock ahead once and getting out 15 minutes early, and she was not happy about that at all. We had to scrub some floors or something from that. We were the only class that didn't get something for reason to be going home early, but anyway, we got punished for that. I remember sophomore year, I remember geometry class. For some reason, I got it. I don't know why. Geometry was like automatic. But then there was Dennis, saying, Larry, give me your homework. Well, I got to do it. And he was my buddy. I had to give him the homework, But all good kids, they came from everywhere, from Cambridge, from Dorchester, Somerville, Malden. We were good kids. We were really good kids. And we're still here. We believed. Remember what it said in our yearbook? The torch is going to be passed. I really believe that. And I still believe it. I still believe we got a torch there. And that we can still make a difference. It's not over, we're still alive. We can still give love. It's all about giving love. It's all about trying to make a difference in the world and making it a better place to live in. And that's a daily event. It's not easy. It's not easy. There's this black and white, there's this contrast between good and bad, and you can see it now in the world, with Ebola and the Middle East and all that. Do we have any control over it? I think we do. I think if you live your life in the right way, you change the environment around you, and that spreads to the environment in the next town and the next city and all that. So I think you can really make a difference. So I'm very grateful for everybody that's here tonight, taking the time to come back. It's our connection. Sometimes when I'm out there, I think, did I really grow up in Cambridge? I mean, was that real? Was I really in, Dave Carter would say, I remember you at Boy Scout camp. Yeah, it was important. I remember Bobby Young being a real smart guy, but one of my best buddies, and we were always hanging out and talking about stuff, but good stuff. He went to BC, he was a smart guy, and Tommy Herlihy going to the Naval Academy. It was a big stuff. Kids from St. Mary's did that stuff. And a lot of us were very successful. Look at a guy like Mike Ring, you know? We've slapped him around in high school. And now he's an attorney. You know, I'm very proud of my friends. Mikey, I mean that sincerely. I really mean that. Yeah. It's really a joy to be here and to be able to say a few words. And, you know, I know I've always had the gifts for gab. And I was telling Sister Ann tonight, I always liked everybody in the class, you know? I liked Dennis, and, you know, he was a tough guy, but, you know, I joined Fidelity, and I hung out with Cynthia, you know? It was like, what's that all about? Because I loved them all. They were all nice people, you know? I really liked them. And I was president of Student Council. What a joke that was. I never gave out one detention the whole time. All I did was keep ripping Dennis's up and coming, hey, look, take that, fine, you know? But he was a good kid. Dennis wasn't a bad kid, he wasn't. He was a nice kid. I can remember the win over Latin, you know, the football. I remember playing football. Billy O'Brien still remembers it yesterday. We won it was 12-8. And we were losing. It was in the fourth quarter, and Tommy Hurley and I had this special blocking thing that we used to do. Remember that, Tommy? The cross block or something? It was guaranteed. And we unleashed it, and Obi ran for the touchdown, and we beat Latin. That was huge. It was huge. It was really huge. Things like that, you know. I remember New York. I remember, how many of us went to New York for that thing? Yeah. How many didn't get drunk that week? I give the nuns a lot of credit. They knew we were up to no good at all. But we did it. We had a blast. It was it was a great time. It was a great time. Well, my friends, I'm grateful that you all took the time to come tonight, and I just want you to know I was sort of the anchor here to make it have some meaning for you. But it is important what we did back in '64, and the torch was passed. And I think you know, I still remember that scene from Saving Private Ryan, that final scene, when he was standing there at the grave, and he said to his wife, was I a good man? Do you remember that scene? He said, was I a good guy? Was it worth it? And his wife said, yeah, you were. Was it worth it? I think we're all good people, you know? And if we never meet again, I'll see you on the other side, you know? For sure. Yeah, no, but we're gonna go, I mean, wherever it is, it doesn't end. It doesn't end. Thanks for coming, everybody. Some woman in the class has to say something. Somebody say something. Come on, somebody. Susan. I have to say one last thing. Susan held this thing together. And she did make me crazy a few times with like the name tags and the this and that and the whole thing. Thank you, honey. Thank you. Go in. Finish it up for us.
The person I remember in Larry's life, who was an outstanding person, was his mother.
Thanks, Roy. I appreciate that.
She certainly was. Cambridge was 5 of the happiest years of my life. Later on, I decided celibacy was not something that was making me a better person, so I decided I would make a move, and I'm very happy that I did. I have a lovely wife and 3 great children. And I remember going to St. Mark's, and I was just ordained at the time, and I had gone to St. Mark's School. And so I went and talked about St. Mary's. But the thing I remember most is where I came from. I was a kid whose mother, we brought us up on welfare. There were 5 kids. The oldest was 6 when my father died and left her with 5 kids. I never forgot that. And I felt that everybody was worthwhile, no matter where they came from. Whether they were from Washington Elms or Newtown Court, or whether they were up from Harvard Street at the other end. And I have wonderful memories of many, many people. And I run into people every once in a while. I'm going to tell you 2 quick stories. One, Paul Gately, who was a Cambridge High and Latin guy, but lived up around the hospital. Yeah, Leonard Avenue? Yeah. So, Paul, I went to work as a lobbyist for the teachers union in 1977. I went to law school and passed the bar. But I used to have lunch at the public house down on Beacon Street. So Paul comes in one day and he says to me, he said, Mary here. Mary, you know Coley. He said, oh yeah, she comes in here all the time. Oh no, you know Coley. St. Mary's. He was Father Walsh at St. Mary's. And she said, oh, I thought he looked familiar. I wasn't even a Catholic and I used to go to confession to him every Saturday. And I thought your brother was one of the nicest men I knew. Your brother Barry. Yeah. And the other one was Ralph, that worked for Tip O'Neill, Michael Ralph. He came in with Gately one day. He said, you know Coley Walsh? Of course I know Coley Walsh. He said, I was in high school up at North Cambridge Catholic, and the pastor wouldn't let him have dances during Lent, so we had this Lenten basketball tournament. He said, so I came down from North Cambridge Catholic to the rectory. He said, I thought I was going to the NBA draft because we were going to draft teams, he said. He said, and it was one of the highlights of my high school career. Now, I just mentioned those 2 things because a lot of people in this room I share memories with. And one other one, and this is kind of Peggy McGuire, Lord rest her, but her father was on his deathbed, and I went down to anoint him. Well, he was a true blue Irishman, and so after I anointed him, he was gone as far as, so he opened up his eyes, and he looked, and he said, Peggy, did you get Father Walsh the tea? It was an amazing time, really, to be growing up. We had the Vietnam War. We had casualties of that war. We had Kennedy being elected president. We had the Vatican Council. We had a civil rights movement going on. All of those types of things. And an amazing time to be there. And I think, I know my children, too, are not necessarily running off to church every Sunday. But I think they have from their mother and I a sense of social justice, a sense of how people should be treated, a sense of the fact that we have an obligation to help other people, that we cannot be satisfied just to make our own way without worrying about other people. And I think most of you, all of you I'm sure, have carried that same lesson from St. Mary's. And I hope with Pope Francis, bringing maybe the light of the Vatican Council 50 years ago back into the church and changes coming about, that many more will see not only an opportunity, but a welcoming to come back and think over whether or not that faith of our fathers is still the faith that someplace deep in our hearts is still there. And I'm sure it is. The people I've known here are just wonderful people. When I drive through Cambridge, it's wonderful. I know who people are on almost every street, and I'm always thrilled to come back and meet people. And I'm sorry that I haven't been able to get to other reunions, but I told my wife, and I left her minding 2 of our grandchildren, so she wasn't overly pleased. But she says, I suppose you gotta go. And the sisters of Notre Dame, Sister, and the others. And, it's interesting when you think about it. Oliver Wendell Holmes says, don't be ashamed of wisdom just because it comes late. When you think about it, the task that the nuns had years ago, the people that they were working with, you know, the problems that were going on in the neighborhoods, in the families. People, you know, we were the ghetto people of years ago. We were the immigrants, you know, and people had a tough time. I knew a family down in Newtown Court. The father worked 3 jobs because they had a big family. And he was a wonderful man, and he had a wonderful family. But the thing is that hopefully that spirit still lives in us, and I'm sure it does, and it is shown in the way we treat ourselves and we treat others. God bless you all, and thank you.
There he is.
Who said, oh no? No, there will not be an encore. Well, I do hope this is not the last reunion. I'm not volunteering to organize the next one, but we really do appreciate the work that's gone into this. And I'm sure there'll be other people that will take over for you if you won't do it. Or you can all come to my house.
Where do you live?
I live in Detroit. Well,
I'm gonna be there in April. A friend of mine, her son's getting married April 11th.
is that right?
Yeah.
We were just there.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
On top of the universe.
absolutely.
It's really beautiful. They're,
No, you weren't in Detroit.
Greenfield?
Oh yeah. Well, it's well, I'm not going to do a riff on Detroit. Yeah, enough people have spoken about it, and it's a lot worse than anything anybody has said. It's very sad, very sad. But there are beautiful suburban areas, and that's where I'm lucky enough to live. But I suppose it's wonderful also to be back here in Cambridge, in this area. You know how people used to say, you know, well, there are no stupid questions, and walking around here, it did remind me, well, there are stupid questions. And, I'm going to give you the microphone so you can just laugh into it for me. I'll say something and then you can laugh. It'll be a big hit, you know?
I want to ask Larry one question. All right, so in Snow White, who was the witch?
I don't remember Mary. Who was it?
Who was the mayor? Who was the mayor?
3 thespians sitting together. That's all I said.
Yeah, good night.
But in terms of, you know, really, maybe not stupid, but silly questions. But my wife once asked me, what did my parents use to keep the deer from eating the landscape? And you just think, you've been to Dorchester, you know? It wasn't the problem. And I don't think I heard the word landscape until I was like 35 or something. And I was in a job interview one time, and they asked me, now, when you were in high school, were you in the equestrian team? And I didn't even know what equestrian meant. So I said, no, we were Irish. Okay, well, I'm going to quit now.
I don't know that cheering when I say I'm going to quit is really the right response here. But, you know, I always marvel, Larry, at the contrast between you and I. And I kind of feel like, you know, you're the Ritz and I'm the Motel 6. And of course the problem with America is that a lot more people go to Motel 6 than go to the Ritz. But we should aspire to the kind of thoughts and the kind of work that you do. And we should all be proud of you and proud of. I mean, I think you just really summed it up. That I never understood we were inner city kids until about 15 years ago when you mentioned that. And I thought, well, no, I mean, inner city was like Chinatown. It wasn't out in the suburbs where we were. And of course, where I live, it's pretty bucolic. And I was saying, you know, one time I'd never been on a school bus until I went with one of my kids to a football game or something. And I said, well, how did you get to school? And I said, well, I took the subway. And they were just appalled. Because, you know, you start heading west from Boston, you don't find the subway till you get to Chicago. I mean, it was just unbelievable that you went to school. Maybe that's what shocked them, that I went to school. Well, you know, I really don't know how to wrap this up. I don't want to wrap it up. It certainly isn't the end of the evening. But I can't tell you really how much all of you mean to me. And I think, you know, how much we mean, hopefully, to each other. And it's been a delight to know you all. One of the great disappointments of my life is that I didn't know you all better when we were kids. That, you know, I just hung around with the good-looking, smart, athletic kids. In fact, this is why I couldn't bring my wife to this. You know, she thought I was president of the class. And she also thought I graduated in 1974. It would have been difficult to ask everybody to, you know. Yeah, I'm really not good at ending this. But like I said,
I want you to guess who came the furthest for her senior year at SMA. The furthest. Who traveled the mirror, mirror on the wall? I gave you a hint. It's a girl. And how far did she come? Winthrop. Kathy Frank came from Winthrop. No, to go to high school.
It's not as easy as it looks.
In all fairness, I lived in Cambridge and went to St. Paul's Spring School with Mike Quinn. And then Mike moved and I moved. And freshman year, Mike walked in and I thought, oh, this is Mike Quinn because he looks exactly like he did in second grade. As he still looks now, no difference. And in all fairness, my family moved to Winthrop when I was about to start my senior year. I never really moved. I lived in Winthrop with them, but I went back to St. Mary's. They thought I'd get real tired in about 2 weeks, not realizing how stubborn I was. So it was a long ride back then. It was 6 subway changes. But I was not going to leave my class because that's what I was going to
Oh wait, give it to Dennis Rice. No. He had a thumb. He had a thumb from Malden Square uphill.
to a rickshaw. I live in Winthrop now.